Welcome to VoteInform, an informative platform designed to empower votes with accurate, accessible information about candidates and elections. Our goal is to simplify the candidate research process, ensuring prospective voters have all the details they need to make an informed decision. Now, here's a high-level technical overview of our project. We utilize many different tools throughout this process, using React for the front end to create dynamic, interactive pages, using components for each page, as well as HTML and CSS for the design portion. On the backend side of things, we access two different APIs, the Google Civic API for candidate information and the News API to retrieve relevant articles for each candidate. This site can also be served on GitHub pages. The articles were fetched through a combination of these two APIs. First, the end user inputs in their address, and this input gets processed by the backend. Making a call to the Google Civic API, we retrieve a list of candidates relevant to this address's ballot, or list out representatives for their prospective information. We then access the News API to find articles for each candidate. These results get returned to our front-end components, and then the articles get displayed. Now, moving on, we'll start with a demo of VoteInform through the lens of a prospective voter.
All right, everyone, I'd like you to meet Alex. Alex is our primary persona. Alex is a prospective voter from a diversified background coming from the subset of the huge section of American citizens who are eligible to vote. Alex is someone who likes to keep up to date a little bit with politics and political information, but looking to expand their knowledge on local elections, current events, and issues, either with an election coming up, or they just want to know more about who their current representatives are. So now we'd like you to take you through what someone like Alex might see on our site. All right, everyone, I'd like to welcome you to VoteInform. We start out here with the landing page on our homepage for all voters who discover the site. It offers some simple navigation to different sections of our platform, such as the ballot oracle, representatives oracle, and a little bit about us. Additionally, we've got some quick navigation here also to the same pages. Moving on here to give our voters a taste of the kind of information that the rest of the site holds, we present the top articles today in US politics. So this is a live query that will bring the most popular articles from the last 24 hours on US politics, just to give them, a hint on what they can experience with a more targeted lens as they browse through the site. Next up, I'd like to turn it over to the About page.
So, our About page provides an overview of VoteInform's mission to find the most up-to-date information for the average voter who desires to stay informed in regards to their electoral decisions. It lists out the creators, us four, and provides Alex with an email to contact in case they have any queries. Next up, moving on to the ballot oracle.
As our users represent voters who are advocating for changes not just at the federal level, but also within their local community, they'll want to discover as much as they can about the candidates who represent their immediate surroundings. They can do so by simply inputting their zip code and address, as we will do now with the sample zip code and address of Ann Arbor. Here, our ballot oracle utilizes the Google Civic API to fetch the races and candidates that a voter would see at this address. We see a list of every single race that will be on the user's ballot for that location, as well as every single candidate running in those races, as well as the party that they are a member of. By simply clicking on the arrow next to each of the candidates' name, the user can then see a list of the 5 most relevant articles regarding that candidate within the past 24 hours. They see the name of the article, the source and where it's from, the author who wrote it, as well as a small description that they can read about before they can finally click on the link itself and open up the article in a separate web page. This is incredibly useful to give our voters the information to understand who they are voting for before they reach the voting booth. We're able to understand everything about a candidate and make their decision before even entering a voting hall. Now, we'll also see how we can use this tool not just by preparing for an election, but seeing who a user's current representatives are in government.
So yeah, to make sure that the app is useful during non-election seasons, we have a representatives oracle This is similar to the ballot oracle. You put in your address and hit search, and then it'll show a list of not candidates, but people who are currently representing your district in the government. So, and then similar to the ballot oracle, if you click on one of these representatives, you can see articles about them. And then you can click on those articles to get more information about the people who represent you. This ensures that the app is useful even during non-election cycles, so that it can still be useful to research people who you may vote for in the future.
Right now, we would like to express that, many prospective voters may be browsing the site on the web, but they might also be trying to access it from their mobile phones, as a lot of people tend to do. And so I want to highlight here the accessible components of this website for users with different view frames, such as mobile. I'm going to switch now in the browser console to a mobile view. Just for example's sake, I'm using the iPhone 12 Pro as a potential device that Alex could be using. I want to note a few simple details here that some aspects of our website have actually changed, such as the navigation is now vertically oriented instead of horizontally oriented to fit a mobile phone's view frame. Our results are also made so that they fit the screen a little bit better than we would expect on the computer. So aspects like this, we've tried to implement so that we can be as inclusive as possible. We understand that not everyone's going to be on their computer all the time. Not everyone may have a computer that they want to access it on, but by catering to different view frames, we're hoping that we can expand the reach of potential users on our device, on our website, sorry. Next up, I'd like to turn it over to Benton for a discussion of some of the challenges we faced and how we've overcome them.
So yeah, while developing the app, we had a variety of challenges we ran into. One example of a challenge was finding the right APIs to use. So initially, we were planning on using Ballotpedia for the ballot information API. We've solved that problem by using the Google Civics API instead, which is a free API. The reason we couldn't use the Ballotpedia API was because it is paid. It was very expensive. So, but the Google Civics one is free, so we use that one instead. That's how we solved that problem. Um, Another problem similar that we ran into was the Google News API, which we were going to use for news, was also paid. And so instead of that, we found an API called News API, which is free. Um, that was how we solved that problem. Another problem that we encountered, though, using the News API was sometimes it doesn't give many results for local candidates. So if we go to the representatives oracle and go down to local candidates, some of them will not have results because they're too obscure. So the way we solved this problem was by adding a read more link, which when you click on it, it takes you to Google search pre-filled with that candidate's name and their party so that you can quickly learn about the local candidates. So that even if we don't have news articles for those candidates, you can still click on the read more link and learn more about them easily. Another way we solved this problem was just by experimenting a lot with the news API, tuning the inputs that we give it to try to get more relevant results from it. So a different category of problem that we had to overcome was related to input handling on the form. So for instance, if you type in an address that is not an address, the API will error. So we caught this error and gave a more descriptive error message so that the user can easily figure out what's wrong. A similar problem is if you type in an address which is too vague, like there are multiple addresses that it could be representing, we do the same thing. We say make it more specific so that the user knows how to solve the problem. This is so the API gives a more vague error, but we turn it into a more specific one so that users can figure out the problem more easily. And then a final thing we ran into was the Google Civics API doesn't support certain states, so we also had to add error handling for telling a user like your state is not supported to make it easier for them to understand what's wrong in that situation. So now to move on to some other challenges we had.
So we not only had problems with the APIs we were using, but we also struggled a bit with the frameworks we were using as well. So in regards to React as well as CSS, none of the four of us had much experience with these frameworks, and we had to read through a lot of documentation in order to pick up these skills. A unique non-technical challenge that we faced as well was unfamiliarity. None of the four of us actually knew each other before starting this project, so we had to have sessions to get to know each other and to build a better rapport in order to work better as a functional team. Now,
We
moving
also
on, we'll be talking about mobile styling as well. Sorry, Ajay, please
yeah.
go ahead.
We also had issues with our mobile styling, as it took us several tries to get our styling into a manner that we found visually appealing and also as accessible as possible. However, we can now say that everything we wrote now passes all of our accessibility validators on both different view frames and browsers and works both mobily and on the web. But VoteInform is still not done. We have more ideas that we want to add to our platform. One of these future tools that we want to add is adding bias indicators for all of our news sources. What this means is that for every single news article that appears next to a candidate, we also want to include a bias score that says that informs our users the reliability of the sources they're viewing, as well as where it stands on a political spectrum. This again gives our users more information on what kind of sources they're dealing with and what kind of information they are reading. We also want to include polling data for candidates within our election cycle. This would give our users more information on how popular each of the candidates and each of the races that they could potentially be voting for are amongst their entire voter base. Some post-election features that we want to add include a policy list or a sentiment analysis among how you think your current representatives are doing in government. As mentioned previously, not every single candidate has news articles about them that are retrieved by the news API. As we combated this with our Google News links, we also want to add Wikipedia links for those candidates. Wikipedia acts as a non-biased source for our users, where they can easily gather more information on their candidates that they can vote for. We aim to make VoteInform as accessible as a site as possible. We want to cater to our forward-thinking voters who desire to better their community and better understand the inner workings of our government that they vote for. With our platform, our users can stay informed, make empowered choices, and actively participate in shaping our community. We hope that they will be able to visit VoteInform today and get started with their government process. Thank you.